Emily sat at the long dining table, rocking baby Noah gently in her arms. Her eyes were tired, her hair hastily tied back, but she wore a proud smile every time she looked at her son. Tonight was supposed to be a family dinner, but it felt more like a trial. Margaret, Jason's mother, peered at Noah with a critical eye. "My, his head is quite big, isn't it?" she said, forcing a laugh. Chloe, Jason's younger sister, smirked. "And his nose so tiny. Doesn't really look like anyone from our side of the family." Emily let out a nervous chuckle, hoping to brush off the comments. Babies change every day. He'll grow into his features. But the remarks didn't stop. Margaret leaned in closer. "Are you sure he takes after Jason at all? I don't see the resemblance." Chloe added with a sharp tone. "Maybe he takes after someone else?" The words stung like a slap. Emily's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. She glanced at Jason, sitting stiffly across the table. He said nothing. He didn't even look at her. His silence was louder than any insult. Emily swallowed hard, her throat tight. "That's enough," she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "He's just a baby." Margaret folded her arms. "Well, if everything's fine, why so defensive? We're just curious." Emily's hands trembled slightly as she reached into her bag. She had hoped this day would never come, but she was done letting them tear her apart. She pulled out a sealed envelope and placed it in the center of the table. "Since you all love proof more than respect," Emily said, her voice clear and cold, "maybe this will finally shut you up." The room went still. Forks froze midair. Jason's eyes widened. Margaret and Chloe exchanged startled glances. No one spoke. Only baby Noah's soft coo broke the silence as Emily held him tighter, her face calm but her heart breaking inside. From a modest upbringing, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs, Emily learned early how to fight for everything she had. Money was always tight, but her mother made sure Emily never went hungry and never stopped dreaming. Emily grew up seeing hard work as normal, even when it meant coming home to an empty house at night, because her mother was still at work. When Emily met Jason in college, he felt like a dream. He was charming, ambitious, and confident in a way she had never seen before. He came from a wealthy family, the kind who never worried about bills or second-hand clothes. Her friends warned her to be careful. "His family isn't like us," they said. "They won't understand you." But Emily was in love. Jason made her feel special, like she belonged somewhere bigger than her small world. After graduation, they got married despite the whispers and raised eyebrows from Jason's side of the family. His mother, Margaret, had smiled politely at the wedding but never warmed to Emily. His sister, Chloe, often made sly comments about Emily's simple background or her cheap taste in clothes. Emily tried to ignore it. She believed that love could bridge any gap. But life after marriage was not the fairy tale she expected. Jason's family treated her like she didn't measure up. Every dinner was filled with judgment. Her voice too soft, her laugh too loud, her opinions brushed aside. They questioned everything about her, from how she decorated their home to how she spoke to waiters. When Emily became pregnant, she hoped it would bring everyone together. A new baby usually meant celebration. But instead of joy, the whispers grew worse. Margaret hinted that Emily had planned the pregnancy to secure her place in the family. Chloe rolled her eyes every time Emily mentioned the baby's kicks or cravings. And when Noah was born, the coldness turned to suspicion. Instead of cooing over him, they examined his features like detectives. "Doesn't look like Jason at all," they murmured when they thought she couldn't hear. Emily smiled through it, but inside it crushed her. Jason was busy climbing the career ladder. He worked late nights, traveled often, and was barely home. When Emily tried to tell him about his family's hurtful remarks, he brushed it off. "Don't take it so seriously," he'd say. "That's just how they are." But his refusal to defend her made her feel more alone than ever. Emily spent long nights awake with Noah, rocking him to sleep, tears slipping down her cheeks in the dark. She whispered to him, promising he would always be loved, even if no one else believed in them. She tried to be strong, to ignore the cruel words, but they dug deep. Yet Emily was not weak. She had grown up with challenges, and she carried that strength into motherhood. She was intelligent, resilient, and fiercely protective of her baby boy. Noah became her anchor. Whenever she felt like she was drowning under their judgment, one look at his tiny face reminded her what truly mattered. She didn't need their approval. But she would not let anyone question her son's worth, or hers. Margaret organized the family dinner, under the guise of celebrating Noah turning 6 months old. Emily had hoped it would be a happy occasion, a chance for Jason's family to show some warmth toward her and the baby. But as soon as they arrived, Emily felt the air was thick with tension. At first, the comments were small, almost casual. Margaret smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, Noah's head is quite round, isn't it? Very noticeable." Chloe giggled behind her hand. Emily forced a polite laugh, trying not to let the words sting. But the remarks quickly grew sharper. Margaret leaned closer, her voice low but cutting. "His nose is so tiny. Don't you think he should have a little more of Jason's features?" Chloe jumped in, her tone mocking. "Yes, and you were spending a lot of time with that co-worker last year. Just saying. Maybe he had some influence." Emily felt her stomach drop. This wasn't just teasing anymore. They weren't just poking fun. They were questioning her loyalty, implying that Noah might not be Jason's child. She looked at Jason, hoping for some sign of support, but he sat silently, his eyes fixed on his plate. The silence hurt more than their words. Emily's heart raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. The humiliation pressed down on her chest, but she refused to let it show. She remembered the DNA test she had quietly done months ago, right when the whispers and suspicions first started. She had kept the results safe, sealed in an envelope tucked into her bag. Her fingers brushed the envelope as she sat through the rest of the meal. Every laugh from Margaret and Chloe felt like a dagger. Every glance from Jason a reminder of his inaction. Emily realized that this dinner wasn't just an attack. It was a trap meant to shame her publicly, to brand her as unfaithful. She took a slow breath and reminded herself why she had taken the test in the first place. It wasn't about proving anything to them. It was about protecting Noah and herself from their cruelty. The sealed document became her silent shield, a way to regain some control in a house that had never made her feel welcome. Even as the insults continued, Emily sat tall, holding Noah close. She knew that using the envelope would come at a cost. The confrontation would change everything, and there was no going back. But she also knew she couldn't let the whispers and accusations go on any longer. For the first time that evening, Emily felt a seed of resolve take root. They wanted to attack her and her son? Fine. She would defend both of them, but on her own terms. If she exposes the DNA test now, she would be giving them exactly what they wanted, proof that they had forced her into humiliation. But if she stayed silent, they would keep whispering, pointing fingers, and trying to destroy her dignity. The choice felt impossible, and Emily's chest ached with the weight of it. She remembered the sleepless nights after the cruel comments first started. Nights when Noah's cries mixed with her own tears, as she held him close and whispered promises that no one else seemed to care about. She had doubted herself countless times. Was she really a good mother? Was she strong enough to protect her son? The poison of their words had eaten at her confidence, leaving her raw and vulnerable. Jason's growing distance didn't help. He no longer laughed at her jokes or held her hand when she needed comfort. He stayed quiet when Margaret and Chloe made their remarks, sometimes even glancing at them with a subtle, unspoken agreement. Emily felt betrayed. The man she loved, the father of her child, seemed more loyal to his family than to her. One night, unable to bear it any longer, Emily called her mother. She listened quietly as Emily poured out everything. The whispers, the cruel comments, the painful silence from Jason. "You don't owe them proof," her mother said firmly. "But if you ever use it, do it for your son, not for their approval. You protect him first, always." Her mother's words settled over her like a warm blanket. She realized that the test was not just a weapon for confrontation. It was a tool to protect Noah. She had to think about him, not the vindictive satisfaction of Jason's family. A few days later, another family gathering brought Chloe's cruelty to the surface. Chloe openly accused Emily of cheating during her pregnancy, her voice loud enough to make other guests glance over. "I mean, we've all seen how friendly you were with some of your male co-workers," she said, smirking. Emily's heart tightened, but she kept her composure. She looked at Jason, hoping for even a small sign of defense, but he stayed silent. No words came, no hand reached out to hers. The betrayal cut deeper than the insults. That night, Emily lay awake with Noah sleeping beside her, feeling a mix of anger, exhaustion, and determination. The The seed of resolve planted months ago grew stronger. She would no longer allow anyone, family or husband, to make her feel small or question her integrity. Emily remembered the DNA test in her bag, safe and sealed. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was proof of her truth, a shield for Noah and herself. She didn't need validation from Margaret, Chloe, or even Jason. She only needed to know that she had protected her son, that she had stood firm when everyone else tried to knock her down. In the quiet of the night, Emily whispered to Noah, brushing his soft hair from his forehead. "They can say what they want, my love. We know the truth, and I will always protect you no matter what." The resolve hardened inside her. They had tried to break her for months. They had tried to plant doubt, shame, and fear. But Emily had survived sleepless nights, harsh words, and betrayal. Now she was ready. She would face them, not with fear, but with strength. No one would make her feel small again. No one would question her love for her son. And no one, especially Jason's family, would have the power to hurt her or Noah any longer. The quiet determination in Emily's heart was a promise. She would not break. She would fight for her dignity, her truth, and most importantly for Noah. And when the time came, she would make them all see that their cruelty had no power over her. The mocking reaches its peak. Margaret leans forward, her voice sharp and cruel. "Jason, maybe you should demand a paternity test before raising another man's child," she says, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Chloe giggles, nodding in agreement. The air feels heavy, thick with judgment, and Emily's chest tightens with anger and shame. Jason shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, he looks at Emily and says, "If you've got nothing to hide, why don't we just do the test?" His words are calm, but the tone carries a sting of accusation. Gasps ripple around the table. Emily's heart pounds. This is the ultimate betrayal. The man she trusted, the father of her child, is asking her to prove her fidelity in front of his cruel family. Emily's hand trembles slightly as she reaches into her bag. Slowly, deliberately, she pulls out the sealed envelope and slides it across the table toward Jason. Everyone leans forward, eyes wide, waiting for the reveal. Inside the envelope are the DNA results, neatly printed. Noah is Jason's son 100%. Emily feels a rush of relief and quiet triumph. But she isn't done yet. She had prepared for this moment carefully. Along with the test, she had included other documents, proof she had been building quietly, steadily for months. The envelope also holds a separation agreement she had drafted with her lawyer, ready in case she needed to protect herself and Noah legally. There are papers showing Jason's financial mismanagement, proof of errors and neglect that could damage his career if mishandled. Emily had planned every detail, making sure she had control in a situation where she had always felt powerless. Emily looks at the stunned faces around the table. Margaret and Chloe, who had spent months mocking her, now stare, mouths slightly open. Jason's expression shifts from shock to panic, his earlier composure gone. "You wanted proof?" Emily says, her voice steady and clear. "Here's the truth. Noah is your son. 100%. But since this family doesn't know how to protect its own, I'll protect myself and my son, with or without you." Silence falls. The room feels frozen. The weight of Emily's words and the envelope she slid across the table shifts the power in the room. For the first time, she isn't on the defensive. For the first time, she has control. Margaret's eyes flash with anger, Chloe looks uncertain, and Jason's jaw tightens. He opens his mouth to speak, but Emily doesn't wait. She gently lifts Noah in her arms, holding him close as if drawing strength from him. "You've spent months trying to break me," she says softly, almost to Noah. "Trying to make me doubt myself. But you don't get to hurt us anymore." The tension is so thick it feels like it could be cut with a knife. Emily's calm confidence contrasts sharply with the chaos she has just revealed. She doesn't need approval or apologies. She only needs to protect her son, and now she has the power to do it. Jason swallows hard, looking around at his family, then back at Emily. He realizes, too late, that his silence and inaction have consequences. Emily is no longer the woman who would sit quietly while they insulted her. She has taken control, and nothing they say or do can take it away. The room remains silent. Emily hugs Noah closer and stands, her movements composed, deliberate. She doesn't shout, she doesn't argue further. The power has shifted completely. She is in charge of her life and her child's future, and no one at this table can change that. For the first time in months, Emily feels a sense of calm and clarity. The cruelty around her no longer matters. What matters is that she has stood up for herself and for Noah. And in that quiet, heavy silence, she finally feels the strength she has been building inside her all along. Emily leaves the dinner with her head high, baby Noah safe in her arms. The cool evening air hits her face, and for the first time in months, she feels a small sense of freedom. She doesn't look back, even as Jason rushes after her, his voice full of panic. Emily, wait. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he pleads, grabbing her hand gently. She pulls back, steady and firm. Jason, I'm tired. Tired of being married to a man who won't defend me or our child. I can't keep living in a house where my heart is under constant attack, where my son's worth is questioned, and where you stay silent while it happens. Jason's face crumbles. He sees the fear and hurt he ignored for so long, and for the first time, he realizes the damage his inaction has caused. But realization comes too late to undo months of pain. Emily doesn't answer him further. She walks to her car with Noah in her arms, feeling the weight of the past lift slightly with each step. She doesn't take Jason back immediately. She doesn't promise forgiveness. Instead, she chooses space. She chooses strength. She chooses independence. In the days that follow, Emily reconnects with her mother, who has always been her anchor. They talk often, sharing stories, laughter, and advice. Her mother's support reminds Emily of the strength she had carried since childhood, and she begins to feel her confidence returning. At work, Emily starts focusing on her career. She applies for a promotion she had long dreamed about, but had postponed due to the constant stress at home. Her colleagues notice a new energy in her, a calm determination that inspires respect. She surrounds herself with people who value her ideas, her dedication, and her integrity. The toxic voices of her past fade into the background. Emily also takes practical steps to secure her and Noah's future. She reviews the legal documents she had quietly prepared, ensuring that she and her son are protected no matter what happens. Each small action strengthens her sense of control, reminding her that she doesn't need approval from anyone to live a full and dignified life. Jason reaches out occasionally, asking to see Noah, trying to make amends. Emily listens, but she remains cautious. She will allow him space to show real change, but she won't let him rush her or demand her forgiveness. She knows now that protecting herself and her son comes first. Through it all, Emily notices something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not loud or triumphant, but quiet and steady. She can laugh without fear, hold her son without tension, and walk into each day knowing that she has the power to choose her own path. Jason is left to face the consequences of his weakness. He understands that his silence cost him more than he imagined. The family he tried to please with judgment and control now sees Emily as untouchable, a woman who refused to be broken. For Emily, the journey isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming her life and building a home filled with love, respect, and safety for Noah. Each day, she feels stronger, more certain, and more capable. Her world is no longer defined by the cruelty of others, but by her choices, her courage, and the unshakable bond she shares with her son. As she puts Noah to bed that night, Emily whispers softly, "We're going to be okay, my love. We're going to be strong, happy, and free." And for the first time in a long time, she believes it completely. Emily fed Noah in her small but peaceful apartment, the soft hum of the city outside barely reaching them. The room smelled faintly of baby powder and warm milk, and for the first time in months, Emily felt calm. No whispers, no judgment, no cruel words, just her and her son, safe and together. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead and smiled down at him. Noah's tiny hands reached for her face, and she laughed softly, the sound warm and unhurried. Every worry, every fear from the past months seemed far away now, like a storm that had finally passed. "You'll never grow up doubting if you're enough," she whispered to him, her voice tender and steady. "Because you are. And so am I." Noah cooed in response, his small eyes wide and trusting. Emily felt a swell of love and pride she had never known could be so strong. In that quiet moment, she realized she had finally claimed the life she wanted. Not one dictated by the cruel words of others, but one built on her own strength and choices. The apartment was small, but it felt like home. The clutter of bottles, blankets, and toys didn't bother her. Instead, it reminded her of the life she was creating. A life of love, resilience, and security. Here, she could breathe, think, and plan for the future without fear. She thought briefly of Jason and his family, the dinners filled with judgment and the months of silent pain. The anger and hurt still lingered, but it no longer had power over her. She had acted with dignity, protected her son, and proved to herself that she could stand firm in the face of cruelty. That was her victory. Quiet, steady, and unshakable. Emily held Noah close, feeling his tiny heartbeat against her chest. She knew there would be challenges ahead. Life with a baby was never easy, but for the first time, she felt ready. Strong, capable, free. The evening sunlight filtered through the window, painting the room with a soft, golden glow. Emily smiled again, letting the warmth fill her. She didn't need applause or recognition. She had peace, and that was more than enough. As she kissed Noah's forehead and finished feeding him, Emily whispered one more time, "We're safe, my love, and we always will be." Outside, the city carried on with its noise and chaos, but inside that small apartment, there was only calm, love, and quiet victory. Emily had not sought revenge. She had claimed something far more precious: dignity, independence, and the knowledge that she and her son were enough. And in that peaceful, ordinary moment, she knew they had finally found home. Hey friends, thanks for sticking around until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you next time.